To get started, before you even open Premiere, the first thing you have to do is create a new folder on your desktop. So to do that, you just right click on the desktop. If you don't have a mouse that has a right click button, it's control click on a Mac. And then you select new folder, and then you need to rename it. So you just click on this grayed out area twice. Not a double click, not that fast, 2 slow clicks, and then you can rename it anything you like. I'm going to call it test, but you should call it whatever your project name is. And then in this folder, you need to put the video files that you've already taken from your camera. So I've got my video files that I recorded in this folder here. So I want to put all the footage that I'm going to be using for my project into my project folder, my test folder here. This folder is really important. It's going to contain all of your work throughout the whole project. If you move computers, you need to take this whole folder with you. So either keep it on a hard drive, or if you are going to be moving between computers within the university, keep it in EditShare. But everything that's going to be in this folder is going to be essential to your project. And if you try and move one part of it or one file within this folder, you'll lose lots of your work. So this whole thing has to stay together wherever you go. Okay, so now you've got your really important folder set up, you can open up Premiere. So if you just search for it with the looking glass in the top corner, just type in Premiere and you'll see it should come up here. It's a purple box with PR in. So double click that and open this up. So this is the edit software that you're going to be using throughout this module. And when this box appears, you need to select new project. You'd like to start a new project. So you need to give your project a name. So again, whatever the name that relates to the work that you're doing is. And we need to make sure that we save it in the folder that you've created on the desktop. So you need to click here where it says browse, and we need to go to the desktop and select your folder so that everything ends up there and you know where all of your work is throughout this process. These settings you don't need to worry about in the general section. These don't really apply, especially this bottom capture one doesn't apply to us because we're working in digital format, and the rest of them are preset in the way that we need them to be. So you don't need to worry about anything here. All you have to do is make sure that when you click on the Scratch Disks tab, that all of these folders are set up to the one on your desktop. Now when we just set this top one here, it should automatically, like this has done, set all of these components to test, so they're all set up to my folder. It's always worth having a check because we need to make sure that all the files that Premiere creates while we're working on this project end up in this folder on our desktops. We know that if all these are set to test like it is there, or whatever your folder name is, then we're working in the right way and everything's going to end up kept and stored in the right place. Okay, so once we've made sure that all of that's set up right, we can click OK. So we now need to bring our footage into this edit software so that we can work with it. So all we need to do is right click where it says import media. So that's control click again if you don't have a right click. Import and find those files. So mine are here, look. Import. There we go, and I've got my project files here. Now during this module we're going to be using 2 different types of cameras. So if you're using the Zoom cameras or your iPhones or Android phones or whatever mobile phone you have, then that is the way to import files. But if you're using the Canon, you have to go through a slightly different process. So once you've got your files from your Canon on your desktop, you would come into Premiere here, you would select the media browser tab, and then you would find the folder on your desktop. So Macintosh HD, users, admin, desktop. So on your desktop you'll have the files that you've dragged from your Canon. They'll be in, if you look, that previous folder's called private because we've dragged all the material off the Canon. So you double click that folder. You would double click the AVCHD folder, and then you would select all of those files. So just click on the top one, hold down the shift key, click on the bottom one, and then right click and select import. And then if you go back to your project folder, you should see that those video files from your Canon have imported into Premiere. Now we need to create a sequence to work in that matches the settings of the camera we've been recording on. So on this module, we're going to be using a range of different cameras. So the best way to make sure that the sequence, this timeline that we're going to be editing our videos in, is appropriate for the kind of footage we've recorded on the camera that we've recorded it on, is to right click on one of these files and then select New Sequence from Clip. Now you can see it's automatically put this clip on the timeline. I might not want it there, so I can delete it at a later point. But what it's done here is create a sequence for us to work in that matches the settings of the footage that we've imported. You may get a pop-up box on the screen before this asking you to choose your sequence settings. It will look a bit like this. So if this box pops up before you get to this point, all you have to do is press cancel, because rather than putting all this in manually, we're just going to do the much more simple right click, new sequence from clip, and then we know that all our system settings are right for the footage that we've recorded and for the type of camera that we've been using. So what's happened here, you can see I've done that twice, so I've got two sequences. We just need to rename these so that we know what these are. Sequence 1 and sequence 2. If you want to be really organised, which I think is a good idea, especially when you start working with bigger projects with a lot more footage in, if you right click in this project box, we can create bins. These are just like folders. So if you create a new bin and call it sequences, that means we can put all of our sequences into the sequence folder, which just makes things easier to find. And I would create a separate bin called rushes, which is where I would keep all of my footage. So I would select all of those clips and I would put them in the rushes bin. And it just means we've got a bit more space to work in this project box. We can find everything easily, and it's going to speed us up when we're trying to work quickly and find the things that we need to find. You could have a music bin as well if you want. It's just folders to help keep things organised.